Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Toledo Student Government Presidential and Vice Presidential Q&A. This evening, I'll be asking Presidential Candidate Anna Walker and Vice Presidential Candidate Grannt Epstein several questions from students and faculty at the University of Toledo. Each question will be directed towards one candidate with a brief period for their counterpart to add any further thoughts or insights. To begin, let's start with an introduction of the ticket.
I'll go ahead and get started then. Thanks, Norman, for organizing for tonight. My name is Anna Walker, and I'm currently a fourth-year bioengineering major. I am finally returning back to campus after a year of co-op, and I'm very excited to be back. I've been in student government since I was a freshman, so I'm excited to have this opportunity to give back to the students of Toledo and make sure that I'm the best advocate that I possibly can be to improve the quality of experience on campus.
And then sort of bouncing off of that, my name is Grannt Epstein, and I'm a third-year mechanical engineer here at the University of Toledo. I currently am involved with student government, Green Fund, and a few other organizations. On top of that, I too have been in student government for all 3 of my years here, and it's been a great time. And big thing that I think we both really want to get done for the course of the next year is just to sort of bring out the best in everyone here at the University of Toledo and sort of advocate for students on all levels.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for that introduction. Question 1, Anna, is going to go to you. What have you worked on in the past that makes you qualified or prepared for this position?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I've actually had experiences in both the judicial and the legislative branch of student government. I spent my freshman year as the Associate Chief Justice, and then I ultimately moved on to be the Internal Affairs Chair as a senator. I've worked on a number of different legislative projects, both some internal workings, and I helped foster a lot of member development as well. So that's especially key when we're bringing in lots of new senators so that they can be prepared to bring their ideas to campus. And then I've also worked on some legislation, both with Grant and individually. One of the ones that we worked on was to bring a kitchen into McKinnon Hall because it was one of the only residence halls without access to a kitchen. And actually, it was very exciting. I was an RA in the honors buildings last year. And at the very end of the fall semester, they finally got that kitchen installed, much thanks to help of our grad assistant at the time. But that was one of my favorite projects to work on. Obviously, there's been a lot of other things I've had my hand in over the years. But.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna. Grant, question 2 goes to you. How will you implement your goals within the scope of student government?
It's a great question. I think the best way to implement our goals is to create sort of a cohesive campus. So there's 2 parts to that on how we implement our goals. It's to have good relations with the administrators, and this is done through just sort of like working on building those relations and maintaining those good relations that have already been built off of the karma of previous administrations. And then on top of that, another way to do this is to create a cohesive campus, which goes partially to our platform. One of the things we want to implement is to have sort of a president and vice presidential roundtables where we work on sort of, we basically will ways in which improve organizations through our campus, as well as we want to have presidential roundtables to sort of disseminate information that's happening. So this will allow us to sort of implement those goals. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Grant. That sounds like a good initiative going forward. So question 3 goes to Anna. What will your year representing the students look like? If we are virtual this fall, how would that contrast to if we were in person?
Yeah, so if we're looking at another virtual semester like we've seen this semester, I think a lot of our legislation will focus on the experiences that directly influence students right now. So dining, housing, that sort of thing. Obviously, with the closure of South Dining, that's been an issue, especially for students in honors housing at the north part of campus because they have to walk much farther to get over to Ottawa. So we'll be definitely pushing to get that hall reopened. We'll also be working on a few other initiatives, such as getting a dining app, and then focusing on how we can continue improving the online learning experience for students. Obviously, every college has been adapting differently, so hopefully we'll be able to utilize those college representative senators that we implemented a few years ago, so that we can be getting as much feedback from each individual college to see what can be improved, and then communicating that with administration. If we're back on campus, we're hoping to be able to implement some more actual activities going on. So one of the things that we're hoping to work on, which might end up being a slightly longer term project, is expanding Welcome Week. So that would be allowing students to move in on campus sooner so that they'll have better access and time to explore campus and get connected with student orgs and offices and resources on campus. And we'd also like to see a Spirit Week get placed leading up to Songfest. So that would allow a lot of students who maybe don't get involved with Songfest because they're not in organizations that participate a little bit more time to learn about it, get excited, and help with some of the fundraising there. So hopefully we're going to be back in person and able to implement some of those activities, but if not, there's definitely a lot of work that we can be doing to improve campus life while virtual.
Okay, Anna, thank you very much. Question 4 goes to you, Grant. How will you increase access to the counseling center and improve mental health services for students?
It's a great question. I think it's a twofold answer. On one hand, one of the things that we really want to do in this campaign is advocate for the resources that already exist. So a lot of the time, many students don't realize that we have these sort of resources. And one of the big things we want to do is sort of promote these resources by telling other organizations about it, creating flyers for them, helping people like raise awareness on one end. On the other end, we want to advocate, Anna and I, to sort of increase the number of staffers in these different resources, especially when it comes to mental health. I think that's something that a lot of people on campus, especially because of COVID too, we need to prioritize that more. And it seems that there is a will there from the student side of things. So working with the administrators and showing them the students want it and that it's going to good use, I think is a really helpful way, as well as, to reiterate the point, as well as making those resources more aware.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Question 5 goes to you, Anna. Will any of your plans address and improve diversity and inclusion among students?
So one of the things that we're hoping to do is expand the outreach of students that we're actively recruiting for student government. And this is because in the past, we tend to recruit by word of mouth. So it tends to be students are coming from the same organizations. So they tend to be coming from similar friends of experience. So we're looking to change the way that we recruit senators and justices by using the Office of Multicultural Student Success, university, college, and advisors to actually identify and recommend students to us so that we can reach out to them. Because sometimes hearing that voice of an advisor, someone that you look up to, telling you like, hey, you would be really good for this, can be a little bit different than just hearing it from another student saying, you should join. So we're hoping that if we can diversify and include more people in our Senate, we'll be able to focus on initiatives that impact people all across campus better, because obviously if we're not diverse in our experiences, it's a lot harder for us to recognize and address other issues on campus because we're stuck in our own experience. So we're really going to focus on improving the diversity within our organization so that we can better represent and better attend to the needs of campus.
Okay, Anna, thank you. Question 6, Grant, goes to you. Dining remains a very hot issue for many residential students. How do you plan on addressing the lack of options available for students, and what exactly do you plan on doing?
So just to give a background in terms of experience of dining, over the last, I think it was like a year and a half ago, in Madison, which was 2 administrations ago, they started a dining committee, and I was one of those original members. So while we have changed providers, there's still sort of that understanding of there is some experience there in terms of negotiating with those administrators and understanding their points of view. When it comes to specifically improving the needs of dining and like working with dining students, I think a really good way we could do this is we already have sort of things we want to get done in terms of like getting South reopened, as well as starting a Uber Eats system for students. And in terms of that, I think a really good way to approach this is to sort of build off of the dining committee that we previously had and create it into more of a permanent role in our executive branch with the director of dining. This way there's someone who's year from year, who's always focused on dining, and that way it allows the president and vice president to sort of have someone to sort of keen in on that. So hope that answers the question.
Okay, Grant, thank you. Question 7 goes to you, Anna. How will you accomplish improving safety on campus in one academic year?
So safety is always a huge concern on campus, and in the past, student government has been working with multiple offices on campus, including UTPD, to address concerns as they come up. We do semesterly walkarounds on campus to identify any lighting issues and that sort of thing. But I think one of the things that we want to continue to work on is maintaining our connection and improving the student connection to UTPD so that students actually feel safe calling UTPD. Obviously, in the past year, we've really gotten to realize how tense relations are with students and our police department. And I think UTPD tries to connect with us through their semesterly pizza, meet and greets, that sort of thing. But we have established in student government a police affairs or a police relations committee, and we're looking to build that more permanently into student government so that we can bring in members of other organizations to advise on that committee. And really work to bring student feedback to UTPD and hopefully see change that way. I think another continued thing on campus is the promotion of the Rave Guardian app. It seems to be a much better system than the blue lights, as many of the blue lights weren't working. And I know there were concerns when those were taken down, but the actual statistics were that people weren't able to use that. So the Rave Guardian app is great in that if you have it on your phone and you're able to keep moving away from a dangerous situation, whereas the blue light kind of required you to stay put. So continued awareness to students, working with student organizations to make sure that students are feeling comfortable and identifying issues as they come up to make sure that we can continue to improve safety and comfort on campus.
Okay, Anna, thank you. Question 8 goes to you, Grant. Commuters and non-traditional students remain relatively unrepresented in student government and make up a substantial portion of the student body. What are your plans to reach these segments of students?
Actually, a really good question. One of the big things that we wanted to focus on for our campaign, one of the 5 big points was helping out commuters, because one of the big problems that we see on campus is that, you're right, commuters make up a